Welcome back, everyone. It's so good to see you here. And remember, single file on the way into the safe space. Finger paints are at the back. Face painting is on offer today. And of course, don't speak too loudly. We wouldn't want to offend anyone. No snow yet, G-Cuts, but it has cut you to the bone. It's actually a bit warmer today, actually. But thoughts go out to Sid over in Norway, where, yeah, it is literally Arctic conditions. It's the joys of Norway for you. So if you think I'm cold in Scotland, spare a thought for the Sid. He's absolutely freezing his woo-has off. Scott, I've got absolutely no idea why I said he's freezing his woo-has off. I don't think I've ever heard a more ridiculous term for the man tackle than woo-has. Jim and the Twins, you know, the budgie smuggler. I could have gone for many things, Scott. The hairy brain, but no, woo-has.
Woo-has. Woo-has. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard that one, Kev.
They say that's the cry of the Bigfoot in the mating season. Woo-ha.
Woo-ha.
How you doing, big man?
Doing good. Doing absolutely fantastic. And another Thursday is upon us.
I know.
And
already. Where does the time go, man?
I think things are glitching. I think things are glitching in the simulation.
Well, the simulation is definitely where we're going to be starting today. Found a fantastic article to add to a lot of stuff that myself and Scott have spoke about before. But then not only that, got another kind of story to add to that. That for me anyway, it kind of gives one example of how we ourselves are now starting to build out the kind of hardware that would be required for just such a simulation like this, reality, to be built. So I think you're going to find this interesting. There's going to be a lot of fun along the way. And of course, it's me and Scott. We've got a load of funny stories as well. And for once, we're going to try not to trigger anyone. So before we go anywhere, a quick word from our sponsors. No, I don't have any sponsors. No, what we're going to do is I just want to remind everyone out there that we do have sponsors. It's you. And you can join the memberships by clicking the join button down below. Remember, YouTube has selected the channel. I don't know if Scott knows this yet. Oh dear, if he doesn't know this yet, I'm going to get abuse. YouTube has selected the channel to be a part of a 6-month trial program where you, the members, on any of the videos that fall foul of the algorithm deemed not suitable for most advertisers, then that leaves a gap. So YouTube are going to fill that gap with a thank you to all of you and an encouragement to new members to come in as well. So if you see a thank you to you on the bottom of videos in the next couple of weeks, don't be alarmed. It's just a new thing that YouTube are trying out, and Scott's trying not to laugh and fall off his chair. And yes, Scott, we have been selected to be a part of this little trial program.
Well, isn't that,
oh, no.
That is absolutely fantastic to hear, Kev, that the Kev Baker Show is making quite a splash over at Google HQ. Just, hey.
We're still losing subs, dude. We're still losing subs, you know. We're still going down the way instead of up the way. But yes, it's very encouraging. And I think it's kind of cool. You know, I mean, it's a way of, costs YouTube nothing to do, you know. And that kind of real estate, for lack of a better term, on the bottom of the video. No ads on there. Then I think it's a really nice gesture, you know, to thank the people, you people out there who are helping to make this channel what it is. And of course, we're down at 117 now, and we need 8 new members to get the new emoji. So that would be absolutely fantastic. And of course, we've got super chats, we've got me dancing, we've got all sorts of things along the way. But Scotty, I want to get into this whole matrix thing with you. And just one more kind of thing before we get there. I've seen a lot of people in the chat room since we done our very, very powerful show the other night. They're very keen to see you or hear more of you doing more of that type of content, because I think a lot of people really got a pleasant surprise when you spoke that way, and I don't think many people probably appreciate that we do cover that kind of topics.
Yeah. You know, we decided we were going to kind of go this route and cover other stuff because, you know, that's that topic, you know, the politics and stuff. That's what we did for so long. You know, that was kind of our bread and butter, if you will, of conversation for such a long time. So, you know, we decided to kind of take a different route, switch things up for, you know, because it does get kind of you get burnt out talking about those topics after so long, right? But you know, some of that stuff does need to be addressed, and it's nice to kind of dust off the old political commentary cap every once in a while and throw it on. And you know, some people in the chat had mentioned, oh, you know, Scott needs his own show, and you know, well, I did at one time. Me and Kenneth Webb had our own show. That's what we did. You know, we even had our little segments of everything. I think you remember, Kev, a clown of the week.
Yes.
The hat.
The hat. The hat was brilliant, dude. We need to bring back the hat.
We do. I think we need to kind of pull a page from some of Kenneth Webb's little
mastery.
segments.
Yeah, he's a master, dude. I mean, I think a lot of people on YouTube now probably have no idea who Changed the Channel is. And there's something we can do later on in the stream. We'll go over and take a look at some of Ken's work, because a lot of people never heard of Ken Webb because he's been away for so long.
Yeah, I mean, we should pull up his channel and show how many subs he actually has and how many views he has on his channel. And you know, I don't even think that was his first channel. You know, but if anybody has ever seen the Obama deception, chances are you watched that on Kenneth Webb's YouTube channel. You know, so he was a major player back in the day.
Jonesy had him on a few times too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did. So, you know, I do appreciate that people enjoyed my insight when it comes to the politics and stuff like that. And yeah,
Armand's definitely saying, bring back the hat. Bring back the hat. Only to speak to Ken. We'll bring it out of retirement. Yeah. But you know, this reality, let's get into it, Scott, 'cause I want to get into this. And see, like the other night, I was glad it was you I was getting into this with. Again, for these topics today, you're the perfect kind of conversation partner for this, because we're very much on the same page with this stuff. And folks, we've heard it for a long time now. If you've been kicking around on the internet, if you've been watching my show, if you've been listening to other people from Geordie Rose to Elon Musk, and everyone else has had their say on this thing that we're going to be talking about right now. And even throughout time, you go back to the very earliest man, I would imagine that at some point or other, everyone, no matter what time they've kind of been here, we've kind of questioned what it's all about. Where do we come from? What's life all about? And where are we going? And then around the turn of the 19th century, the 20th century, early 1900s, with advancements in science and things like that as well, we had people starting to question the nature of reality and just how real reality itself is. And you fast forward through the years and to we are today, and we have something called simulation theory. And it's nothing new because, like I say, this has been built upon decade after decade for probably over 100 years now, gradually getting more gradually, as our advances in technology have come along and our knowledge is growing, we've been able to kind of fine tune this kind of theory down as to what reality is. And it's a simulation, whether or not we are in some kind of computer simulated or otherwise simulated reality. And we're going to be talking about that today. And there's been somebody new on the scene now. I haven't heard of them before, but they've added in their kind of experience and their opinion on just this topic. And I think it's very, very much worth all of our time to take a look at. You know, we often talk about consciousness and the nature of reality and everything else. And this simulation thing that myself and Scott and so many other people talk about and have opinions on, it could well go a long way to explaining everything. And as we're about to find out in the next article as well, the one that's really kind of spurned this show today, kind of pointed me in this direction, it actually starts to account for some of the woo, Scott. We start to get the woo being taken into the simulation, and that's now been explained as how that could be a thing. So I think it's definitely worth taking a look at. And I'm not sure if you got a chance to look over the story, but it comes from TechWire. And it says, are we living in a computer simulation, a real matrix, without knowing it? And before I even get into it, Scott, before I even get into it, your thoughts before we launch into this?
I definitely think this is possible. And the more I look into it and the more I research into this stuff, the more I kind of look around and go, maybe it seems very, very plausible. And the more we head into the future and it looks like that we ourselves are going to be creating simulations, and you know, with the advancements that we're seeing as far as VR is concerned, immersion, kind of on the way to creating our own matrix, then you got to start wondering, well, are we already in one? You know? And it's very interesting. And like you said, maybe it does explain some of the woo. You know?
Certainly deja vu woo. Certainly, like we see in the Matrix film itself, the black cat passing the door glitch. I would honestly say that the Mandela effect in some way or another could be explained by some glitch in the code, something to do with the memory, some of the kind of the RAM maybe breaking down, corrupting, stuff like that. In fact, maybe that stuff actually, yeah, I definitely think that ties in with this.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and it's very interesting because I think the Matrix films really hit on a lot of things. I mean, obviously, look, I have the Matrix code running in the background.
You're in the Matrix, dude. You're there.
Yes, I'm there. I'm totally there. I'm in the Matrix. But I mean, if you really kind of looked at, so like, we'll take the second Matrix movie, for example. That kind of touched on a lot of the woo stuff, right? Like ghosts. Remember, you had the two, they were like programs that were basically programmed to be ghosts. And that was how, I guess, ghosts were represented in the Matrix. They were just special programs, you know? And so you had these kind of special programs that kind of represented each little quirk or weird thing that, you know, most people plugged, you know, the people plugged into the Matrix would experience these odd things, but they were just these programs that were put into the Matrix. So then you got to wonder, what about like UFOs and Sasquatch and all of this weird paranormal stuff? Is it just like this weird anomalous code that's running in the simulation? Who knows?
Exactly, dude. Who knows? And we'll get into this here, and then we've got a couple of things we can talk about again to expand on this. But for people who might think to themselves, come on, this is utterly ridiculous, you know? We're not trying to say that your life or my life or anyone's life is any less important or any less real should we go on to establish that we are in a matrix, right?
Yeah.
All we're trying to do is we're trying to find it's akin to the theory of everything. You know, something that could explain every aspect of our reality, okay? And even something like the laws of physics, this ties into it because you've got a set of parameters there. And whatever created our reality, whatever's pushing this thing we call the universe forward from that point of, or that perceived point where it begun, then it has to be governed in some way. And just like any other computer program, there's parameters, you know? It's like when myself and Scott were talking the other day about DNA and the shapes of faces and how people look when it comes to doppelgangers and things. You know, the parameters are you're going to usually, I mean, I know that there's defects and things, but your two eyes will be up here, your nose will be right. You get what I'm saying? It's the parameters within what it can operate. And for me, that's the laws of physics. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you've got all the chemistry and everything else that comes into it as well, Scott, and the biology and all of that governed by parameters, exactly the same way as you see in a game like No Man's Sky.
I was just about to bring up No Man's Sky, actually. And you notice, like in No Man's Sky, whenever you come across a new planet or whatever, that planet has its specific parameters, right? In the procedural generation. And so, you know, each planet might be different or anything, but and everything, but it's all following the parameters of the game. It's all following the parameters of this universe simulator that you're playing. And yeah, I mean that it totally makes sense. And like I said, we got the laws of physics. You know, what we understand is, you know, the parameters in which the natural order sort of operates on.
Fibonacci sequence that we see in our bones, that we see in nature, and over time gradually getting smaller so that anything of growth doesn't go too far out of control. And it's fractal in nature.
Yep. I was just about to bring that up too. You know, fractals and, you know, the golden ratio and all of that stuff. And you see these repeating patterns in nature, and you see a lot of this, you know, this sort of mathematical stuff happening. And it's like, well, you know, nature isn't random. There's some order to it, you know, and so it's obviously following some kind of a parameter. And so, yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So let's get into this, right? Are we living in a computer simulation, a real matrix, without knowing it? So it says, are we actually living in a computer simulation feeding us sensory information? Now, I want you to remember that. Sensory information. If you've got a pencil or a pen or anything there, type it on a notepad, something. Sensory information, okay? That was the question asked by two University of North Carolina at Wilmington professors at the Coca-Cola Connect. Oh, that's a heck of a mouthful, that. So Julian Keith, a PhD, and Curry Gwynn, PhD, explored the possibility that we are actually in a computer-generated world like that of the Matrix movie franchise without even knowing it during the 25th Cuccoloris, or what the heck, Cuccoloris Festival this weekend in Wilmington. I'll just say Wilmington from now on. So Keith began by noting that, quote, all of us experience the world delivered to us in the terms of a 3-pound package of fat, protein, and salt water, the brain, wired in a way that it creates our sense of reality. Now, our senses are the interfaces that feed us input, yet they have limited access to what's outside your skull. Now, your vision only sees a slither, a tiny range of the electromagnetic spectrum, Keith said. You were unaware of most of it. Now, that's not a bad thing. If you had to interact with the world in the full range of what's going on, you would be frozen, Keith said. So biology has developed a user interface that ultra simplifies what you are interacting with. That interface, your mind, is constantly manufacturing the colours and the sounds that we experience. It's constantly updating your model of reality and interacting with it. It is your matrix. You interact without knowing there is anything else out there. Now, the problem with biology, Keith said, is that the basic operating system of your mind was developed for a world that doesn't exist anymore. A biological system builds things only very slowly, but cultural evolution occurs many magnitudes faster. That makes us vulnerable to technology and its algorithms. How do you hack a mind with eyeballs and ears? Well, you show it something that grabs its attention, something colourful and bright. Give it some social reward, and nothing pays off more than attention from somebody else. How many times have we said that right here on the show? And it says that in turn results in a release of dopamine, making you feel good. Quote, heroin, crack cocaine, or chocolate cake, or even a smile will do it. Sometimes a traffic cone. Then you will do it again. What causes this addiction is rewards that releases dopamine on an intermittent variable response schedule. You don't win at the slot machine every time. You don't get likes or comments on Facebook every time you post, and you don't always see the right entertaining cat video. The guys at Amazon, Google, Facebook take your data and are ultra sensitive to certain types of stimulation and reinforcement. What do they want? Clicks. So they create a default trance state when you just stare into your devices. Pretty good so far, Scott, right? I think he's pretty nailed that one down.
Mm-hmm.
So this is when we get into the real kind of meat and potatoes of this story. So Keith talked about the science of the mind, Curry said. I'm going to be a bit more speculative. We may be actually living in a computer simulation. I'm not the only one who says this. Elon Musk of Tesla and SpaceX has said that there's a 1 billion to 1 chance that we are not living in a computer simulation. He argues that the arguments that Musk used for this idea derive from a paper by Nick Bostrom, a professional philosopher in the United Kingdom. Now, he put some numbers together and suggested there's an ultra-high possibility that we are living in a computer simulation. Look at where computer games are now compared to where they were 40 years ago in the era of Pong, Curry said. Today they are much more realistic, even though we still know we're just playing a game. And where will we be 40 years from now? Or 500 years from now? Or 5,000 years from now? He asked. Well, Bostrom suggested that these future computer games will be so similar to reality that we won't be able to tell the difference. They'll be like the Star Trek holodeck, and the characters in them may not realize that they're in a simulation. It's inevitable that we will create realities indistinguishable from this reality. And as this goes on with myself and Scott, we're going to show you how we're getting even closer to that right now, right here in our reality, whatever our reality is. So how could we know we're in a matrix? Well, you've got glitches in the system. Deja vu, such in the Matrix movie when a character sees a cat crossing the doorway. Maybe one glitch. Ghosts. ESP. Coincidences, Scott. That's interesting. But they may be others. The laws of physics in our universe seem to peculiarly, I hate that word, peculiarly, designed with a set of constants that make carbon-based life possible. Where are the edges, Curry asked. So why would anyone run such simulations? Well, one clue may be quantum physics, where some things that seem impossible are true. An object that can be in two places at the same time. The phenomena Einstein called spooky action at a distance. Now, why would we or anyone else run these simulations? Asked Curry. We run a ton of them all the time, he said. Supercomputers run simulations for weather predictions. We use them to better understand our environment and make changes. We use them to study human activity and ask questions such as how does population grow? What things work best, and is it running these simulations, or it is us running these simulations? How should we live then if we are in the Matrix? Curry asked. We should act as if our lives are exemplars of what is possible, he answered. Now, how should we live our lives in the Matrix? That's a pretty big question. But Scott, that article there, aside from the Matrix stuff that we're going to take further in a minute, I mean, the take on social media, the dopamine dependency that I think everyone now is building up or has some level of dopamine dependency. And that's not to speak badly of anyone. I mean, they hooked us into this. They knew exactly what they were doing, but I think this guy here, he really does get it, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, we already are in kind of a proto kind of early version of the Matrix. If you think about it, we might not be completely jacked in, like in this dream world, but we kind of are, right? We're in this point now in history where we're sort of partially in a dream world, but we're also interacting with the real world. We're phasing into it, right? Social media, like I consider that the dream world. Your online presence, your avatar that you kind of play out, your online life. That's kind of the dream world that everyone kind of goes to. And so it's going to be interesting how this all plays out and how much deeper we shift into this. I mean, these advancements are coming extremely rapidly. You already have Facebook talking about, well, why sit there and chat on Messenger with your friends when you can put on the VR goggles and sit in a virtual room and talk to your friends online, right? I mean, that's kind of the beginning of this stuff that you see in like Ready Player One and all of that, where there's going to be this sort of online world, this separate reality that people are going to be plugging into and interacting with. And so
and Scott, we like our tech, right? And a lot of the new graphics cards and things, new consoles coming out, PS5 next year, that the Xbox will have something as well. Everything now, really the hardware tuning towards virtual reality. It used to be a kind of novel add-on a couple of years ago when it first kind of came along, but now it's really starting to go on leaps and bounds. And this is where we've got a bit of evidence, I think. Not evidence, but an example of how we're getting closer to building simulations or virtual worlds where the stuff that are real bodies right now in your room, like you can touch things and feel things and you can burn your hands, we're now getting close to the point where we can simulate that when we're in virtual reality, where we're feeling things, Scott.
Yeah, and to add to that, this right here that you're about to show is really wild. But then that thing I brought up on Freaky Friday too is also wild, where they're suspending particles that people can touch, in a actual physical. It's a hologram that actually has physical properties.
This takes us close to the holodeck, like the guy's saying. We're getting close to holodeck time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also interesting because It was like well, it was like a week or two ago. We were they were showing the commercial for like the Oculus on TV, and my mom was like, is the VR, is that like a thing now? Like, is that really here? And I'm like, yeah, like it's, because she remembers like back in the 90s, and I remember back in the 90s when they were talking about VR, and then you had Nintendo kind of letting all the kids down by putting out the Virtual Boy, the thing that burned your retinas with red light, and it was
Yep.
like very crude, primitive, pixely kind of 3D stuff, and all the kids were thinking that was going to be like the real deal, legit VR, and it was like, oh, come on.
It's like when we went
But
to the
I told,
cinema back then as well with the red and blue glasses on. You're thinking, wow. And then they tried the
yeah,
3D again lately, but I think they've kind of sacked the whole 3D thing because they're wanting this.
3D is completely obsolete now.
Yep.
There's no reason to watch 3D on a television when you can just put on a VR headset and actually be completely immersed in a 3D environment. So, like, 3D is obsolete. It's archaic now. It's crazy. But yeah, I told her, I was like, yeah, it's here. The VR is like legit here now, and
now we're getting like
real deal.
like we can see here though, Scott. We're now getting to the point where, yeah, it's cool. We can look around in this place, but now we're literally going to be touching things and with feedback and stuff like that. Not only that, but getting the sensation of them. If it's hot, if it's cold, and if we're able to do that with this type of material here, then that's similar to me as our what we call natural skin here, because it's replicating all of the same stuff. So if we can do it in VR with this here, I would say this is us on the road, Scott, to being able to, program it in as it's been programmed into us for us to grow this skin naturally. When we're creating these simulations that are indistinguishable, we'll be adapting this physical form of science right now, and we'll be digitizing it to the point where, oh, look, we literally are creating simulations where the characters within it, they're feeling things. They might not be able to determine if they're in a game or not.
Let me play something real quick, because it's very, very, very powerful. And it comes from the Matrix movie, but it is one of my absolute favorite parts in the movie when Neo is talking to Morpheus. And I'm just going to play this little clip, and it ties so much in to what we were just talking about.
What is real? How do you define real?
Boost it a bit. There we go.
Okay, hold on. Let me. I can go back. Give me a second. Yeah, I'll boost it just a little bit.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Boom.
But it is, though.
It
I
is.
often say that to people, how do you see? See my eyes, you idiot. Do you? Your eyes certainly capture the photons and the light. However, that's then converted immediately into an electrical signal. Oh, very similar to the way that the webcam sitting on my monitor right now kind of works, Scott. Just saying. Same with the ears, like a microphone. The mouth. You could have that as the speakers. There's so many similarities. You can find the input outputs, folks. You can. You really, really can. And now here we are, creating what I would call basically our first kind of sensory component for the characters of our simulation that we're making. Scott, remember that sensory input that the guy was talking about that we have with our brains, our bags of fat and salt water? Yeah, that sensory input now is what we're working on for the virtual world. And if we can do that, then we take it one step further and we program that into our algorithms for the entirely simulated world. And you've got all of these characters with AI now, Scott, able to make faces, totally random. You take that aspect, you put that into a bit of code within the characters, and you almost have DNA. Because then you're starting to get the DNA is basically that algorithm with parameters, settings that gives you this.
And then what is DNA? Oh, wait. It looks like DNA is code in that it can store information. And what did they say? There's like so many. Was it megabytes or no? I think it's even more.
Yeah, because they can use DNA as a storage medium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be used as a storage medium. So it's literally blocks of information, blocks of code.
You see what I'm saying, folks? We're not like telling you that life is any less real. We're just trying to figure out and get to the bottom of how the hell this all works. I mean, when you think about it, it's pretty amazing, right? And there's no way all of this can be random. It just can't be. For anyone of a religious mindset out there, welcome to the party. Because I call this the divine code. This is an algorithm so divine that we might not even recognize it, but we're starting to. Because we're getting close to that part where we're writing similar algorithms. And we've got just a little bit of the story about the skin, because I've got another one that ties in from more physicists that say when they look at the universe, they don't just see the universe and all that stuff. They see code. Literally code. So if we go back here first, right, we say scientists have developed a device that allows people to experience the sensation of touch with virtual reality. The skin machine consists of a soft, lightweight sheet of electronics that sticks to the body. It uses a combination of pressure, vibration, and motion to simulate the sense of touch for users. Sounds very much like our skin simulates touch for users, Scott.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You're just putting another layer on that will stimulate the layer underneath, right? Yeah.
It's crazy. So it's a paper describing the skin-integrated wireless haptic interfaces. So this is wireless, folks. This is the big pit as well, because we're starting to unplug now, and you're walking around in virtual worlds as opposed to being very limited.
That was another thing that blew my mom's mind, because she didn't realize how far VR was, and she's like, "Well," what about the bulky cords and all that stuff?" I'm like, "Mom, the Oculus is wireless now."
Just like your telephone. Remember the first mobiles, Scott, that were like briefcases? Remember that? Yeah. Your businessmen, your yuppies and that with these big, hello! Yeah, same way our phones now are like yawn size. It's the way technology goes. Smaller and more powerful. So it goes down to say the whole process is very complex, the paper states. The sense of touch is a collection of several sensations, encompassing pressure, pain, and temperature. Until now, it has been a great challenge to incorporate sensations of touch into virtual and augmented reality. The comparison to the eyes and the ears, the skin is a relatively underexplored sensory interface for VR and AR technology that could nevertheless greatly enhance experiments at a qualitative level with direct relevance in such areas as communications, entertainment, and even medicine. Now, the authors say that the technology could have a number of applications. For instance, the system could be used to transmit touch to a loved one through social media, brown chicken, brown cow, or to reproduce the shape of an object held in a prosthetic hand. It can also be worn by video gamers to feel strikes when playing video combat games. Virtual reality remains a relatively niche technology, primarily used in industry applications and by a small portion of video gamers. Experts hope that the advances like these will help the technology finally break into the mainstream, and of course they will, Scott. Of course they will.
I mean, look, for the thing is that the main issue with a lot of this VR stuff is immersion, right? the more immersion you feel, the more of a quality experience you have, right? Because the whole point of VR is to get lost in that world, right? You put it on and you want to experience the VR experience and not really sit there and think about, okay, I'm in a VR game, right? And so the more immersion you have, the better the experience. And I think this is the major step. This is the big step for immersion. And this is where I think you're going to see a lot of people start getting lost in VR. You know what I mean? Because then it's a total immersion experience. They can feel everything that's going on in the VR. Because right now there's still that disconnect between the brain where you know that you're in a VR. You know that your body is not experiencing what your eyes are seeing, right? So if there's like an object in VR and you reach out to touch it, you're not going to feel it, and your brain knows that disconnect, and you're like, okay, well, this isn't real. But when we reach a point to where you reach out and you touch an object in VR and you get that feedback in your hand where you can feel it, then it's just like Morpheus says, what is real?
And there's a
It's
Black
just
Mirror episode, Scott, and it's like me and you. Now the technology's advanced a bit, but there's no headset or anything. It's just a small, like a watch battery that you put on the side of your temple that kind of takes control of the brainwave. But then you've got two friends that end up in like a fighting game, Mortal Kombat, and you're able to do all the big jumps and just like we're hearing with this skin story here, like when you're striking people, oh, you're feeling it. And vice versa. When you're being struck, you're feeling it in there as well. Now, obviously, your body in the real world, you're still sitting in the chair. Your eyes are closed. And I think that really takes you a lot closer, Scott, when you're just sat in the chair and maybe close the eyes and tap something. That's when you could really get lost in that immersion you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Remember when Neo and Morpheus fought each other in the Kung Fu dojo in the training?
Who can forget that?
Yeah. And then he woke up and he moved up and he's like, oh, and he like touched his lip and there was blood coming out of his lip. And he's like, I thought it wasn't real. And he said, your brain makes it real. Because you're receiving those inputs into the brain, and it's just receiving all the information that it thinks is real. So are we going to start seeing that kind of stuff to where if somebody gets shot in the Matrix, I call it the Matrix. If somebody gets shot in VR, I mean, it might as well be the Matrix.
Exactly.
Right? If somebody gets shot in VR and this skin haptic thing, gives you that sensation that you got shot, does your brain like freak out and go into like a panic mode because you actually think you got shot?
If you're feeling proper pain like that, dude, at that point, what's the difference though? At that point, what's the difference, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, obviously they're going to dial this stuff down to where it's not actually hurting you like excruciating pain, right? But it's going to give you some kind of, well, who knows, maybe. But
deviant version, top shelf version, real pain.
Yeah, exactly. The premium model makes you really feel like you got shot. But obviously it's going to give you some kind of a feedback, right? Like if you're playing a shooting game, and somebody shoots you, you're going to feel like a thud or some kind of a sensation wherever you got shot, right? But even at that point, I think even then your brain is going to be like, whoa, what the heck just happened? You're going to feel that reaction, that your body, is going to have that reaction. And since you're so immersed and everything looks so real and everything feels so real, maybe people's brains won't know how to handle that. Maybe their brains really will make it real, right? I mean, are we going to see people like having heart attacks because they get
what worries me is, right, already without VR, Scott, just with the way people almost live another life online, be it social media and all of this, whatever, doesn't that have a physical effect already without us, going even deeper, man? It's bizarre. And then
Yeah,
when
I
you
mean,
are in
look at
there, right, like you say, you're going to get used to the dopamine that's obviously, coming out of that. And I fear that some people, and who can blame them with the harshness of reality and life sometimes, they would prefer to be in there.
that's what I'm saying. People are going to get jacked in and they're not going to want to leave. You know, uh, it's going to have the same effect that like any addictive drug is going to have, right? You know, it's going to release those chemicals in your brain that make you feel good. And you're going to keep wanting to come back to it. You're going to keep wanting more of it, right? And like you said,
All these incels that can't find love in the real world, all of a sudden, AOCs and people like that opened up to them. Did I say AOC? Sorry, man. Sorry. It's a glitch in my matrix, Scott.
Then you got to wonder. I mean, it just opens up so much weird ethical questions and just weirdness. Like,
can you like commit crimes? Like if somebody doesn't consent to something in the VR world, and is there like going to be repercussions in the real world for you?
if it's an AI character that they're doing that to, then we have to start asking about
Rights
like
for them.
robot rights, or
That's weird.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
it gets really, really.
I mean, there's already a game. It's not even VR, Scott. It might be VR by now. Remember Second Life? Remember that thing?
Yeah, that was kind of the first. That's been around a
long time now. Yeah, long time now, right? So, I mean, people have been living lives in that. People have made millionaires out of themselves in that. Shoe shops, handbag shops, all that kind of thing. But I mean, that thing runs. It's like a virtual world. It's 24/7, right? So when this virtual reality we're talking about, I mean, is it going to be one server that we go to? Or is there going to be like different worlds that we can pick from? You can go to like the Facebook world and it runs 24/7. You've got a character in there, or you go to another world that some other company set up, and it might be like some, I don't know, different planet or something. There's going to be all these different options for us to go to, but you know what? It's like running 24/7 though. It's not like you stop the game and you reload it again. No, that world's running. It's a virtual world.
I think you're going to see a bunch of companies competing on who's going to have the best virtual world, right? It's not going to be like just one monolithic virtual world, but it actually could be, right? Because we see the monopolization of these corporations on the internet anyways, right? Like Google. I think it's going to be run by probably the big tech companies are going to have, whoever has the funds to create the most immersive environment, right? So immediately you would think, all right, probably Google will have theirs, Facebook will have theirs.
Google cars, the whole thing's ready to go, right? They've got the virtual world there.
Yeah.
We've seen how NVIDIA can create cityscapes and things out of nothing, Scott. So there's a fictional world you can build with NVIDIA.
Yeah, and Google already has all the resources to basically map out our current planet, our current world, and then just import it into a virtual world, right? Like you said, with the Google cars, all of the Google Street views, basically Google Earth. You can just use Google Earth and essentially look at everything in a 3D environment anyways,
and
right?
Then any gaps in the data, you just go to IRL streamers, CCTV cams. You're able to get the image, the data from somewhere, stitch it in, and we're good.
AI.
Yeah, man.
To fill in the gaps as well, right? So, I mean, Google has pretty much already built an infrastructure to basically recreate this world within a digital realm, within a virtual realm. So, like I said, you have them doing that, and then Facebook, obviously, they're going to be focusing more on the social and human sort of psychological aspect of all of that, and the interaction with individuals.
Well, think about the fact that we're entering a time as well where employment might be a bit sketchy thanks to the rise of the robots. A lot more people with a lot more time on their hands. And this thing here, you know, people might opt for more of this. Now, let me be clear on my part. I'm not sitting here condemning it. I'm not saying there's anything inherently evil or bad about this. I'm just thinking where they're going to take this kind of stuff, Scott. Now, I'm very, very aware of the dangers, like Scott's saying, and things with people spending too much time in there, wanting to swap our so-called reality for the faux reality. Absolutely. But again, I'm not saying that this technology, it's not like evil. It's not bad. It's not, you know what I'm saying, Scott? There's a lot. When you talk about technology, some people think it, all evil. It is what it is. We're just projecting as to what's around the corner.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking about, well, you know, the current state of society and where we're at now, and then just thinking about how it would move forward, you know, if this technology, you know, when this technology really comes to fruition, and, you know, how people will interact with it. And you're right. I mean, maybe we might see an entirely new sort of employment sector open up. What we might actually see people that
do virtual work,
that their job is whatever their avatar is doing in the virtual world, right?
Astronaut.
And then you add on top
astronaut, dude. Me and you are astronauts.
Dude, as soon as we go into that virtual world, we're already going to figure out how to like hack it and try to like break that matrix or whatever. But
that was going to be one of my next questions to you. Is there any way for us to hack our matrix? Or would, for example, we've heard about yogis and shaman and people like that in the past who have almost been able to bilocate, you know, come out of body. And is that in some way them hacking the code? Have they hacked the matrix at that point, Scott?
I think so. I honestly do. I think when you hear these stories of like for example, like the Buddha, right? Just going into a meditative state and then just boom, blipping out of existence. Like maybe he hacked the simulation. He hacked the matrix, and what did he do? Maybe he transferred his own code somewhere, or moved to another simulation, or somehow became code. You know, who knows, right? And you know, we got to go back to the Matrix movie, right? It's like Neo learned how to hack the Matrix.
I know what happened to him. Somebody who monitors the Matrix, Scott. A big alarm started going off, a light flashing somewhere. Weep, weep, weep. Zoom in on this little Buddhist guy. And like, you are kidding me on. He's not getting close, is he? Delete. Get him out of there, man. He's the one. He was the ghost in the make. Get him out. Gone. That's it, dude.
Yeah, and you know, like geniuses and great thinkers and philosophers throughout history, right? I think maybe they found a way to exploit the code, not necessarily hack it, but just they learned how to utilize the simulation to its maximum potential to sort of push the boundaries and bend the rules, right? I mean, we got guys like Tesla and all of that say that they've received data downloads essentially, right? Maybe that was just kind of like information, like buffer overflow that just kind of hit their little sector of data that is their mind, right? Or, you know, their little block of code or something. Who knows, man? But I definitely think it's possible. I definitely think it's entirely possible. And then we got to get into the realm of, like, say, psychedelics, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you played me that little clip of Paul Stamets.
I would love to play it on here, but Joe Rogan, he's got one of these companies. It's nothing against Joe, it's his management, you know. It's got the content ID match, so it's not Joe Rogan sitting striking people, but you just can't get away with it, unfortunately. But Paul Stamets, Scott, you introduced me to him. Tell the audience about that cat.
Paul Stamets is a absolutely brilliant mycelium researcher and professor, right? And he's done all kinds of. I mean, this guy's got the credentials. You know, he's not just some guy running around, taking taking mushrooms and making these wild claims. He's a bona fide. He's a mycologist. I mean,
Paul Stamets, American mycologist and entrepreneur who sells various mushroom products through his own company, an author and advocate of the medicinal fungi and micro meditation. Yeah, myso. Oh, who knows? I can't read anymore, Scott. I'm going backwards instead of forwards. But yeah, he was on Rogan and he was talking about an experience that kind of suggests that maybe the mushroom helped him hack the Matrix in some way, gave him a glimpse at future code.
I think so. I think that was an example right there of the simulation being hacked or exploited in some way, because I don't think we understand completely how psychedelics affect the brain. And I'm of the opinion that our brain is a quantum computer. It just sits.
And if anyone thinks that's crazy, go and check out Stuart Hameroff. And he's a biologist, a neuroscientist who talks all about the quantum effects of the brain. So yeah, I agree with you, Scott. And I also think when we call it a simulation, perhaps I think it's important to add on to that the simulation as we know it is the closest thing that we've got that ticks the boxes of reality. But that doesn't mean that we're right, because we could be talking about something that's far more advanced, out with our knowledge, out with our ability to even conceive in our minds. It's too big for us to even think about. It's just so out there because of what we are limited by, our thinking, our knowledge, right?
Exactly. We're simply trying to describe it in terms of what we know. Our just what we can sort of piece together and what our brains can comprehend. And that's it. It actually, it might be something way larger that just we can't even fathom at the moment. But getting into this Stamets thing, when he was on Rogan, he was talking about when he was in college, right? And, doing their
thing.
Doing their thing, and he said that one of his friends, I guess it was a fellow student or something, or
I think it was his brother, actually.
Yeah, I think it was his brother. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because his brother was really into this stuff too, and he was also student studying all this stuff and traveling around the world and doing a bunch of stuff. So I guess by the university campus, they had found a massive plume, an explosive growth of mushrooms. And they went out there and collected them, and he stated that was actually a new species of mushroom that hadn't been described in textbooks. I mean, it was known, like people had seen it before, it just hadn't been scientifically broken down and described.
like the Sasquatch. You mean people had seen it before, but nobody had really kind of. I know. I'm being a dick.
Exactly, and obviously these mushrooms were contained psilocybin, and in the endeavor of scientific research, Stamets and some fellow students out there decided that they were going to make smoothies or these, and because he said that they weren't as potent as the regular shrooms that everybody knows, so they needed a higher dose. But so he drank the smoothie, and went into the experience, and he said that during the experience he had seen like a bunch of dead cattle just laying out in a field, a bunch of dead cows that were just kind of like rotting in the sunlight or something like that, that they looked like they were burnt or just decomposing out there. And anyways, I guess after he had the experience and all of that, he told his friends or whatever, he's like, there's gonna be a nuclear war. He thought that something was gonna go down because it all, in his experience, it all occurred by his, wasn't it like by his cabin or something?
Yeah, in the dream he had to go and rescue his life's work. He was working on stuff, and he had to go to this cabin, and they even put a date on it when he came back, and they were all talking about it because it was like Cold War time, Gorbachev, Reagan, and all that going on, and he interpreted the vision, the trip, as meaning something really kind of nuclear.
Yeah,
kind of Armageddon.
The context. He didn't know the context of what he was seeing. He just knew that he saw it. That in the experience, his trip, if you will, or whatever. He just knew that he had to get to the cabin. He had to get all, save all of his notes. He saw all the dead cows and all of that. And, he put a date on it. He just thought maybe it was going to be like a nuclear war or some kind of conflict or something that had killed all these cows. But what was it? 2 weeks later, he said that there was a massive flood, a bunch of rain that hit and washed the side of the mountains down, and they had closed a bunch of roads, and his cabin was going to be flooded. It was being threatened by the water rising, and so he had to rush up to his cabin to save all of his notes and save all of his documents. And he said when he left the cabin, what did he see out in the field? Bunch of dead cows, a bunch of dead cattle that had died in the flood, or this natural disaster that had occurred out there had killed all of this cattle. And he said by that time the rain had cleared up, and so it was sunny, and so it looked like that they were just kind of laying out there in the hot sun, dead, just as he had seen in his mushroom experience. So
how do you explain that? That's what he says. How the hell do you explain that? How do you explain viewing a future event? Okay, he misinterpreted it, but he literally traveled in his mind's eye, thanks to the mushrooms, to a future event. That calls into question what the heck's going on there.
He literally, he either time traveled or he astral projected into the future, which, well, same thing. But he time traveled, and that's why he said, he said, I traveled the multiverse. He says, you can say I'm crazy or whatever. He's like, but I'm 63. He's like, and my scientific work holds up. He's like, and I really don't care what you think. He's like, because it happened. So I think this is just another example of like the simulation.
Do you think
exploited, a glitch in the simulation caused by a little bit of a chemically induced quantum activity in the brain?
Like he says, and he's the most serious deadpan face when he says it in the world. How the hell do you explain that? And he's been studying for over 40 years, and he still can't explain it. And like he tells Joe Rogan, because Joe says, you must be like, people must laugh when you say these. No, I don't give a shit. That's what he says. I don't give a crap what people think about me. It's what happened. And I've done my research, and it's been backed up. I'm confident in my science, and this is what it is. We could well be in some kind of simulation,
Yeah, I mean, he's done like peer-reviewed research in mycology and written.
You'd have to think he's the world's leader in that field, I would think.
Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah.
I would definitely classify Stamets as probably the leading authority on mycology and fungi. So for him to say this, why would he make something like that up?
Why would you make something like that up? Exactly. So I think the last word on the Matrix part of the stuff, me being a fanboy, I'm going to hand it over to Elon because I think he probably is one of the most profound things that I've ever heard being said about the whole simulation theory. And yeah, check out this guy as well. Oh, I've gotten the wrong camera. Here we go. It's Lex Fridman. I think his name's actually Lex Friedman. But he's got his own YouTube channel. This is another one that's mirrored the video. But he himself's a physicist, and he goes about talking to the world's leading physicists. Absolutely. Right up there with my Geordie Rose. Had to get it in there, Scott. But yeah, let's take a listen to what Elon has to say about all of this.
We will ever create an AI system that we can love and loves us back in a deep, meaningful way, like in the movie Her.
I think AI will be capable of convincing you to fall in love with it very well.
And that's different than us humans.
I wouldn't say that's any different. People can pretend to love you, and people fall for that all the time. You know, artificial fake love, pretending to love somebody and loving somebody, Scott, for the person receiving it, is there any real difference if you think it's real?
It's just signals being interpreted by the brain, Kev.
Thank you.
You know, we start getting into a metaphysical question of like, do emotions and thoughts exist in a different realm than the physical? And maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But from a physics standpoint, I tend to think of things, you know, like physics was my main sort of training, and from a physics standpoint, essentially, if it loves you in a way that you can't,
you hear the code working through that quantum brain, dude.
Every time when I see Musk talk, and I know people are like, man, what's wrong with him? He's weird. He's definitely, it's that savant level quirkiness, right? And when you see his eyes darting back and forth like that, it's because there's so much information flowing through his brain at that particular moment. He's trying to.
Scott, what age was it he told Joe Rogan this all kind of kicked off? He was young.
Like it's like 5 or 6.
Yeah, when he realized he was different, he couldn't sleep. Stuff like that. Yeah, dude's different.
His brain is firing so fast, and that there's so much information going through it that he can't articulate what his mind's eye is seeing. He can't really convey the message, or convey what he's actually, what's going through his brain, and so that's why he kind of like stutters, and he's like having to think about how to articulate what he's
having to pick out the right code from about 50 different streams coming in, man.
Yeah.
Tell
it's
whether
wild.
It's real or not. It is real.
That's a physics view of love.
Yeah. If you cannot prove that it does not, if there's no test that you can apply that would allow you to tell the difference, then there is no difference.
Right. And it's similar to seeing our world as simulation. There may not be a test to tell the difference between what the real world and the simulation, and therefore, from a physics perspective, it might as well be the same thing.
Yes. And there may be ways to test whether it's a simulation. There might be. I'm not saying there aren't. But you could certainly imagine that a simulation...
Pause it there, but do you think maybe some of the experiments that they do, not just CERN, Brookhaven, all the other ones as well, Scott, try to think of the other one, National Labs, that one as well, but they've got many particle accelerators. When we hear about things going to other dimensions, do you think that might be one day our way of really solidifying this theory? Do you think there's things like that going on there, Scott?
Yeah. And I think this also ties into multiverse theory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I believe there are multiple simulations running at the same time.
That's what I was going to say to you. On our supercomputers, that's what we do. We run multiple simulations at the same time and layered.
And
you
just tweak the variable slightly in each simulation, right?
Say it's weather models, folks. I mean, one of them you put in certain parameters, and then the next one you would tweak maybe the temperature or tweak the annual precipitation or something like that, you know?
Or even look at, okay, so for example, good example of that would be right when we're looking at hurricane tracks and you see the spaghetti models, that's what they call them, the spaghetti, the lines that of potential ways that the hurricane could track. Well, those are all individual different simulations, you know, with slightly different parameters and tweaks, you know, based on certain, you know,
sea surface temperature, wind speeds in the atmosphere, all those things, right?
Yeah, fluid dynamics, because that's all air currents are. You know, air is fluid. It's just a less dense fluid that's sitting on top of the oceans, right? You know, but air is fluid, and so you're pumping fluid dynamics into these simulations, and you're running multiple simulations, and then they base the track off of kind of the, you know, they kind of interpolate, they find the average between all of the different simulations. But yeah, we do that currently. We do that right now. We run multiple simulations of the same thing, which is slightly changed variables, you know, so.
Yes, so we do exist in other verses.
Simulation could correct that. Once an entity in the simulation found a way to detect the simulation, it could either restart, pause the simulation,
or delete the Buddha,
start a new simulation, or do one of any other things that then corrects for that error.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
I've not paused it.
What's outside the simulation?
Boom.
Boom. You notice he sat there and those eyes were darting back and forth for quite a while.
Here we go.
When
We'll get it one more time, yep. Oh, he was thinking about it, Scott.
Oh, yeah.
What's outside the simulation? What's outside the simulation? What's outside the simulation?
Yeah. That's the question.
That is the question indeed.
So, folks, whether you think we live in a simulation or not, I definitely think it's a good thing. A pretty cool thing to sit and think about sometimes. You know, think about the way that you experience reality and then compare it to like computer games or things you've seen in movies or TV shows that depicts this kind of thing. Go and listen to what people say about it, and I tell you what, it might not convince you, but I definitely think it's an interesting line of, again, it's more speculative, right? Because how do we eventually prove it? You can't.
It's a philosophical.
Yeah, exactly.
And philosophy is based off of, speculative questions, right? And it all goes back to, it's the age-old question, where did we come from? How big is the universe? What is the universe? It's these questions that man has been asking ever since we've had that sort of awareness that there's something much bigger than us, right?
Yep.
And like we were talking about before the show, and I think it's important to bring up, if you're religious, if you're looking at this from a Christian perspective, none of this poo-poos on the religious thought on all of this, right? Because in order for there to be a simulation, well, there has to be a creator. Somebody had to code it, right? So simulation theory and a religious perspective, they can go hand in hand. They don't compete with each other in any way whatsoever. Because
can I be the most triggery I've ever been in my life before I forget this, Scott? God is an AI.
Ooh.
We're starting to create AIs that can write its own code. Wouldn't that be the... And again, I don't know what Christians really think of what the character God is. I don't think of him as a physical being, Scott.
I think it is very naive or very, I would say, arrogant of humans to sit there and actually think that they know what God is.
In his image, not exact copy. So in his image, well, if he's an algorithm, he's made of code. And we're made of DNA, and we're made of code, and I don't know. I don't know, dude. I don't know.
It's very, very interesting to speculate, but
people's unsubscribing as we go. Get unsubbed. He's a heathen. He's a Satanist. No, it's just a thought, folks. It's philosophical.
Yeah, and like I said, it doesn't compete because there is a creator out there. The universe is too ordered. There's a certain set of parameters. Everything is based in mathematics. Somebody created this.
Maybe that might be the error correcting code. And I'm not going to get into this article. I'm going to show you the headline because we're going to move on to the funny stuff before we let Scott go and I get ready for tonight's show as well. But where is it? I've just got one more headline here that ties in with this. Yeah, how space and time could be an error correcting code. And that's a physicist that was kind of talking about this stuff. And I've forgotten what I was actually going to say about this. What I was actually going to lead into here. But, yeah. I don't know, dude. I forgot.
Somebody
glitched me out. Somebody glitched me out, dude.
They hit
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say, right? Perhaps. Let's just say for a minute, suspend all your beliefs and just go with me, right? God's an AI, right? Perhaps that might be the one thing that protects us against some artificial general intelligence ever being created. Because that literally then would be on a par with whatever created us. And I don't think...
Oh, so you're talking about the ultimate, more superior AI that will be able to handle anything else that...
Yeah, the big one, the biggie, the one that we all fear, the one people see in the movies, that kind of one, right? Not the one that's like looking for Nazca lines and finding 140 new ones. Cool story I done yesterday. But you know what I'm saying, Scott. You know exactly what I'm saying here, dude. You know what I mean.
Yes, but so you're suggesting that if that AI ever comes to fruition
or comes close, there'll be server rooms blowing up mysteriously. There'll be code that gets deleted mysteriously.
The main man, the master coder will correct that little
That's
problem.
As far as you go. You get that far. Oh, that's as far as you take it. There's the line, man.
Okay. Well, then let me go Joda on you.
Why are we getting close to some cataclysm in the world and a reset and everything else? Yes.
Yes. I was about to say, let me harness my inner Joda. Let me go ahead and bust out the beard and the art tools. Yeah, and so we've seen these episodes, these cycles throughout civilization where it looks like they kind of reach a certain point, and then all of a sudden, it's time to go back to the Dark Ages for a little while. You guys guys got a little too crazy with your technology and what you were trying to do. You know, Tower of Babel or Atlantis or anything like that. Seems that civilizations reach a certain pinnacle where something is about to happen, and then looks like the code needs to correct itself. Just saying.
That's devastating. Devastating. I was looking in my Photoshop Wars folder there, and I don't have the one of like Joe. I don't have the one where he literally is Joe on the ark leading the way. I can't believe I've lost that one. I thought I had that.
It's okay. It's okay, Kev. That just gives you a good excuse to make a
brand new one. Yeah. We'll just have to put up with. I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's definitely the Nephilim. Mad Joe. Poor Joe. Even when he's not here, we're giving him grief, man. That's not right.
It's a vagina, Kev.
Oh, did you have to go there, Scott? Did you have to go there? People around the world now are thinking, what the hell did Scott just say?
It's okay. It's okay, people. Yeah, it's an inside joke.
Very inside joke. Just like an inside job, it's an inside Joe. But yeah, let's move on to some of the funny stuff now, Scott, because all these great people, you know, they come to the safe space, and to be very fair, I mean, this has been very kind of structured and kind of serious for our kind of stuff going on, right? And I need to just take this. It's the boss, and on the stream. Yeah, got to keep the boss happy, man. I'll be getting a virtual shoe.
Yes, that's the real coder of the simulation over at the Baker House.
Even if she's not, she is. She's hacked my matrix. I tell you that, big man. She's hacked it for sure. But yeah, we've got some crazy stuff we can get into here before we let you go away today. You know, that's what I like about the safe space. Usually a good laugh, and we kind of get together with the chat room. So I'll be giving a few of you in the chat room a shout out as well as we go along here. Don't worry about that. I've not forgotten, folks. Just when I get Scott on board, I make the most of his brain, and hopefully we'll start to see more of Scotty boy. I'll unleash him more. I think people blame me, Scott, for you not doing more of that stuff we done the other night, and that's not the case.
It's his fault.
Am I the handler? I didn't even know it.
He's been stifling my potential, people.
Oh, God. Terrible, man. I'm sorry, Scott. I apologize, dude. I do. What? Once a month? I don't know. We'll get more once a month. But, folks, let's get into the weird, the wonderful, and the crazy. And to kick all of that off, then, well, Scott, there can be only one kind of topic. The Florida man. Oh, yes, indeed. Florida man. This one.
Nice.
He's definitely, I think, going to be on my top 5 Florida men stories for 2019. And it says here, Florida man wearing a MAGA shirt robs a bank holding a, quote, hope to get caught note to teller. And guess what? Wah, wah, wah. He got arrested. So it says a Florida man. And Scott, you made a good point when we looked at this story earlier on, how they've put a video there that's absolutely really nothing to do with the story in question. But it is.
Yes, just well, you know, we are talking about Newsweek, and you know, it's interesting to see how the media does this kind of stuff, right? So, you got this story of who knows if it even would have made news if he wasn't wearing a MAGA shirt, right?
That bad, Scott. That bad. He still would have made man news. He still would have. I'd have found him on an obscure site somewhere.
Because I mean, in comparison to a lot of Florida man stories, this is kind of tame, you know. So I think the MAGA shirt thing is what Newsweek jumped on, and so they decided to. Well, they're like, let's do a Florida man story and tie Trump into it.
Yeah, show how he's not fighting Florida man crime. So it says here, a Florida man wearing a MAGA shirt was arrested after he handed a note to the bank teller that said, they're all going to get Mo. Oh, sorry, hope to get caught during a robbery. I think he might be one of them, Scott. Sandy Hawkins, 73, was charged with robbery without a weapon on Tuesday, according to a Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. A probable cause affidavit said Hawkins had entered a branch of Wells Fargo on Sandalfoot Place Drive in Boca Raton in Florida at around 11:30 a.m. on Monday. KTIT. KTIT reports. Definite, dude. We need to get him. We need him. Anytime there's any station, we get Nuke Dukem. Nuke Dukem? No, probably better with Duke Nukem.
This is KTIT. KTIT. Playing the best tunes in town.
We're so stupid at times, dude. It's brilliant. So it said Hawkins approached a teller and asked for 1,100, according to the Palm Beach Post. That's a cool... he's not greedy. You know,
a very specific number, too. I mean...
Didn't take a gun.
Not to go.
He didn't take a gun. He's only asking for that much. Could they not have just filled out like a loan form for the guy? 73. Do him a favour. Know what I'm saying? So it says, but when the man requested his debit card, Hawkins told him, "This is a robbery. I have a weapon." You see, that's where it went wrong. The affidavit said Hawkins, dressed in a T-shirt bearing the words Trump and MAGA, had put his hands on his waistband to suggest that he had a firearm there. The affidavit said that Hawkins also handed over a note to the teller that said, "Give me $1,100. Now, no alarms. Hope to get caught." This guy doesn't need the jail. He needs help, man. He must have bills or something like that, dude. This is like a cry for help, right? I'm feeling a bit guilty about laughing about this Florida man.
There was a guy that robbed a bank, like, on purpose so he could get caught because he didn't want to be around his wife anymore. like that legit happened. You got to wonder if this is kind of like that situation. Like, maybe he's just had enough, or...
Don't give me ideas, Scott. Don't give me ideas, man. I'll be down in the local bank tomorrow. Help! So it says...
Why would he hand a note that says, "I hope I get caught"? Like,
exactly.
I'm thinking he might have just did this on purpose so he can get arrested.
So the affidavit said that when the teller counted out $2,000, hey, cool dude, he was getting $2,000. So that Hawkins told him it was too much, and he again asked for 1,100 and took the money when the teller gave it to him in $100 bills and walked out. So sheriff's deputies obtained surveillance footage from inside the bank and nearby businesses, the Post reported, and Hawkins was identified by the manager at a nearby sports bar, as well as the manager's father, who provided deputies with Hawkins' address. So deputies arrived at his home and found him sitting outside on an electrical box. Detectives said Hawkins pulled out a bank deposit slip that was handwritten message for the teller. On it, "I will make it easy," he told investigators. So the Post reported that Hawkins spent years working in the air conditioning industry, and his former landlord, Scott Vale, told the newspaper that Hawkins changed after his wife, Linda, died of cancer in 2013. Quote, "I knew it was pretty devastating. He was an affable kind of person," Vale told the Post. "He probably reached some kind of breaking point." And Hawkins of Boca Raton has been held at the main detention center in West Palm Beach, at least it's not that one in New York, Florida, on a $50,000 bond, online records show. So according to the Post, Assistant Public Defender Paul Caruso said at a hearing on Wednesday that Hawkins was retired with no criminal history, and there he is there. Certainly doesn't look the most dangerous man in the world either. Newsweek has contacted the Palm Beach Sheriff Office and Wells Fargo for comment. I'm not going to laugh at him. He's definitely not a funny Florida man.
I definitely think like yeah, I'm thinking he did it because he wanted to get caught.
Yeah.
Like, and it's so strange though, like very specific about how much he wanted. 1,100, and when they like
Maybe
tried to
just
give
a
him-
bill or something, man. Maybe they're going to take his house off him, maybe, right?
I don't know, man. Yeah, when they tried to give him more, he's like, no, that's too much.
Yeah, it sounds like that was specifically for something. And like you say, if you
There
just
was-
wanted arrested, surely there's easier ways to do that, right?
Yeah. I mean, but like robbing a bank is a guaranteed way of getting arrested. You know what I mean?
Isn't
Without-
putting your hand in your waistband almost a guaranteed of maybe getting shot if the wrong person sees it, though?
Yeah, that's a pretty dicey maneuver there. But I mean, if this dude was at a breaking point or something like that, did he really necessarily care if he got shot? You got to wonder what his state of mind is. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Very, very interesting, but I definitely think that it's kind of shady how Newsweek like just tries to tie this in with like Trump.
Well, I'm gonna give this noise here to me for even thinking that it was a funny Florida man story. Yeah. Not good, Scott. Not good, but that's okay. That's okay, because we can make up for it. Yes, we can make up for it, because who knew that one of the latest examples that we're living in, like, idiocracy, bizarro land, upside down world, would be the fact that somebody took a gaggle of geese and ducks to court, and not only that, they lost. Yes, indeed. You think I'm making it up? I'm not. The ducks have won. French courts say they may keep on quacking. Carry on quacking, Scott. That's right. The ducks on a small French smallholding may carry on quacking after a French court ruled on Tuesday, rejecting a neighbour's complaint that the bird's racket was making their life a misery. People will complain about anything, right? The court in the town of Dax ruled that the noise from the flock of around 60 ducks and geese kept by a retired farmer, Dominic Duth, in the foothills of the Pyrenees, sounds like wherever our Jack's up, dude. Maybe it's him with the ducks. So, was within acceptable limits. So the ducks have won, Duth told Reuters after the court decision. I'm very happy because I didn't want to slaughter my ducks. And the complaint was brought by Duth's neighbour, who moved to the city around a year ago from a property about 50 yards away from the enclosure in the Soustons district where she kept her flock.
So this is an example of some city slicker who moved out to the country and
can't handle the noise.
It couldn't handle when country stuff happens around them.
Fair play to the French court. Not very often, I kind of compliment the French on many things, but nothing against the people. It's just a weird country, right? It's bizarre, dude.
Very strange.
Very, very strange. So yeah, ducks won a court case in France. We've also got... Oh, this is a good one, Scott. This is definitely a good one, isn't it? Because we have got the Robin Hood of McNuggets. Yes, indeedy. Check this out, folks. Ex-Edmonton McDonald's employee heralded as the Robin Hood of McNuggets. Scott, how many times have you gone and had McNuggets or something like that, though? Or chicken bits, so we don't get accused of advertising for the Golden Arches, How many times have you been left just wanting more? There's just never enough, right? You get 6, you get 10. If only we had known, dude. If only we'd known there was a Robin Hood out there, man.
I will admit, as disgusting as McNasty's is, there's something about the McNuggets.
Yeah, it's like water-filled chicken, like fake chicken. It's lovely, dude. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely hits all of the right dopamine receptors in the brain to make you want more. And so, yes, kudos to this guy. And look at him. If that's him, he definitely looks like the kind of cool dude. I'd
have had him. If you showed me a face of him in a lineup, I might have pinned him as the soy boy SJW type, who would have grasped on the Robin Hood. Because what he was doing, folks, long story short, without getting right into it, when people were ordering 10 pieces of McNuggets, Big man was slipping in an extra 1, 2, or 3 along the way, making him the Robin Hood of McNuggets. I think it's brilliant. I really do. But if somebody had said to me what was his role in this McDonald's outfit, I'd have said, oh no, he probably grasped McNuggets. He's probably the one that grasped them.
I don't know. He's got the baseball cap on backwards.
Thank you very much, Little Lucy Samoyed. I like that. But you know, Scott, I've tried pulling these faces that the pineapple guy pulls when he's dancing. I don't even remember pulling those faces when I made that little video.
Is that was that the app warping your face and doing it?
Oh, not at all, dude. Not at all, dude. I actually put on that suit and I jumped around and you try to question that I done that for real. You saying that's virtual? Hang on, Scott. Hang on. Let's watch this again, folks. Let's see. I mean, could you honestly believe? Could you believe that? I didn't do this dance. Look at that. I don't know.
This is a test super chat alert for £26.
I just gave myself 26 fake pound. How cool is that, Scott? You want some fake money, man? You ever want to prove money's fake? Just press the test button on Streamlabs. Yes, indeed. So you didn't have him pegged as a soy boy?
No, he kind of looks like the kind of guy that would probably hook you up with a couple extra nuggets just because.
Just because he can. Because he cares, dude. Because he cares. Big up to the brother, man.
He don't look too soyish to me.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. Now, where was our last one? Did we have a last one? Was that it, Scott?
I think so.
I think it might have been, dude. I think it might be that time for us to part our ways and for me to figure out what the heck I'm going to talk about on tonight's show. I think I'm going to go paranormal tonight, folks. Yes, I haven't gone into the woo for a little while, and the political stuff at the start of the week, you know, I have to kind of balance that out and make myself feel better again and take myself into the realms of the woo. And I will be simulcasting, I think, and that means I'll be back at 10 o'clock tonight on tfrlive.com, and of course here as well. But like I always ask you, and I can't make you, but if you can go over to TFR while the show's on as well, and you can get 2 chat rooms for the price of absolutely none. Yes, that's right, because totally free for the chat room over there, totally free for the chat room here for the simulcast. We're all good to go. And yeah, maybe the first segment, I'll get into some news and some woo. And as the show progresses, you know what I'm going to say next, Scott, don't you? I'm going to open up the phones, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeed. I'll be opening up phones for all of you to call in. So bring your very best woo. See if you can out-woo the Woo Master. Did I just call myself the Woo Master? It's far too close to the Womb Master. I don't like that, Scott. Not good. Not a cool name. So that was Woo Has at the start of the show. And now Woo Master to sign us out. What the is going on today?
You're just injecting woo into everything.
Oh, definitely, dude. Definitely. You know, everything needs a good injection of the woo, right?
Yes.
So they say. And you'll be back tomorrow for Freaky Friday, right?
Yes, Freaky Friday. Another week has dawned upon us. Again. And so obviously the woo is going to have to be stepped up a notch. And guess since you're getting into it tonight, it'll be a good warm up for tomorrow. Dig up some good stories. See what lies ahead.
It was somebody sending me a link to a video, but I'll need to check it first because it's got music in it. So I'd need to check it first. It would have been a really cool way probably to play us out tonight. But, and remember we played out, was it the hot, crazy index rap?
Yeah.
Yeah, did I tell you I got copyright for that, man? Somebody grabbed it.
Yeah, I kind of figured once you started playing it, and I looked at the channel, I was like, oh, that might get a hit.
Top
But
tip
at least
to,
at least we were able to play the video of the guy actually breaking it down. So,
and of course, top tip to anyone out there who's got a YouTube channel: try and stay away from music. It's lethal. It just gets picked up by the algorithm right away. And over the weekend, when me and Scott are doing the streams, and hopefully Joe will be there as well, we'll be checking in on our friend. I call him a friend. It's a channel we often check in on. Rudolph, the tall white alien dude. We have King Sweet in the chat. He was leaving messages on Rudolph's videos about the channel here and how we simulcast and take a look. Rudolph left us a love heart, dude.
really,
2, I think.
Rudolph,
the tall white alien.
white alien.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we'll be checking in on him at the weekend. I think King said he had released a new track. I think there's a new song out there.
He's quite the rap master.
Oh, he's awesome. We'll see. This could be a good way to take us out, dude. Rudolph has been consigned to the dustbin of the YouTube search, because Rudolph now, you know, it's all reindeers that are coming up there, right?
Yes. Since Rudolph has this budding hip hop career, I think, instead of straight out of Compton, I'm gonna say he's straight out of mushrooms.
Brilliant. I like Rudolph, man. We like Rudolph here. And for people out there thinking we're making fun of the guy, we're not. We genuinely like the channel. I'm not saying that I honestly believe he's some tall white alien, but I don't need to. You know what? He's not harming anyone. Bit of fun.
We've developed quite a soft spot for Rudolph, because he's carved out an area of YouTube that is unique to him. And so, of course, we don't necessarily believe everything he's saying, but
and
he's got his own thing
Scott,
going
he's
on.
got some superhuman strength, dude. We watched that the last time.
Yeah, if you need a metal cone moved, Rudolph's your man.
We're talking of cones. Hang on a minute. Seen a really strange thing with a cone today. How do you do that?
Oh.
How do you possibly sit in a cone like that? Now, I get it could be cut in half, or it could be Photoshop, but dang, dude. Whoo-hoo, that's got to make the eyes water, right?
What was that picture taken in Scotland?
Probably. It does look like a UK van over there. Oh, dear me. Yeah, it's probably in Glasgow somewhere.
I was about to say, I think only a Scotsman could handle that.
What the hell's happened to us? Where did we go wrong? But then, before we check Rudolph out, I've got one more thing that we can check out here. Another bit of fan art, Scott. I don't know whether I should like this, because really it's poking a bit of fun at me. I like it, though. It's the Scottish gnome, dude.
Oh, my goodness.
I think at some point down the line, I think we're looking at an emoji right there, right?
I think that would make a fantastic emoji.
So do I. And that was Mannerus. Thank you, Mannerus. Thank you. I appreciate that. We like that. And folks, send things into Discord, send us things on Twitter. If it makes me and Scotty smile and things, we'll show it. Even if it makes us cry, we might show it. But no, I think that's really, really cool.
And I think this needs to be added to the list of cryptids.
I think so, dude. I think you might be right.
I think we've stumbled upon a new one here.
Aye. Bravus Hartus Nomus. And I think that's the classification that it's going to be given in a couple of months when I really do discover this. That's what I look like when I'm not online. The minute this stream goes off, that's what I transform back into, folks.
Ah, you shapeshift, see.
Yes, got that. Don't know why we make that noise when we talk about shapeshifting, by the way, but the two of us always do it.
Well, because shapeshifting is always associated with the reptilians.
I know. We're not shape-shifting reptilians, Scott. We're shape-shifting gnomes. Don't tag me in with that lot down in Buckingham. Talking of Buckingham, just before we go, did you hear that Andrew, Prince Andy, Randy Andy will be retiring from public duties, Scott, in light of his magnificent performance he gave on the BBC? Yeah, probably about the best thing he could do. Keep his head down right now.
Yeah, that didn't work out so well for him, did it? The BBC didn't really do the softball. Look, you had one job. You had one job, and you blew it.
Yep.
You blew it. And so who knows? Is this even a good thing though? Because all that means that he's going to go creep back into the shadows and he'll be out of the public light, you know.
But he'll still be one of the most ultimate swamp reptilians. Not even a swamp monster, Scott. A swamp reptilian. Yep, like a crocodile. Oh. Anyway, let's check out, see if this is a song from Rudolph. Hang on, I'll play it. I think it might be.
Your desires are burning deep in your heart. At night in your dream world, the fantasies start. You're dreaming of angels, but demons appear. You're losing your power. You're letting go. You're trapped in the middle.
Remix.
No place to hide. The merciless demon is holding you tight.
I told you it'd sound better on 1.5, didn't I? That sounds awesome now, man. Let's remix it and get it out there.
It's holding you tight. Demons and angels, who really can tell? Smelling like roses, decaying in hell. Pain can be pleasure, and pleasure is pain. Your longing is endless, and your soul is alone.
Sorry, dude, but he looks like Johnny Whistles right there, man. I think Johnny Whistles is Rudolph.
Telling you,
dude, when he has these funny turns, maybe he turns into Rudolph. You ever watch Mr. Robot? Maybe Whistles actually becomes Rudolph.
have you ever seen Rudolph and Whistles in the same room together?
Never.
Your soul is
Never.
alone. No person can heal you. You fall like a stone into the chamber of whining and fear. Of whining and fear. No person can heal you. Here, demons and angels, who really can tell? Smelling like roses, decaying in hell. Pain can be pleasure, and pleasure is pain. Your longing is endless, your soul is alone.
It's been epic, folks. It's been great.
I'll burn you.
That is what we here in the States call a banger.
It's like belter, isn't it? I'll be back later, folks. Yes, we will. Well, I will. So join me on tfrlive.com later for more fun, more hilarity, more news, and, of course, more from all of you as well. Yeah. We'll let him take us out, folks. We'll let the big man take us out.
Your desires are burning deep in your heart. At night in your dream world, the fantasies start. You're dreaming of angels, but demons appear. You're losing your power. You're letting go. You're trapped in the middle. No place to hide.
Remember, folks, show Rudolph some love. Go and visit Rudolph, the tall white alien. Come on, show him some KBS love. And I'll be back tonight on the Kev Baker Show proper over on tfrlive.com and simulcasting over here. 10 p.m. UK, 5 p.m. East Coast. And that is 2 p.m. on the West Coast. I don't know what time it is in Australia, but I know we've got a lot of listeners down there. And I'll see you all live later on. Remember, keep your mind open, keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo.
And your soul is alone.